why did you choose to go with HR as far as like?
I know, right?
study-wise? Yeah, because
Why would anyone choose?
he's literally.
No, I'm kidding.
How
You know, I had some, again, my prior life was military, you know, I was an officer, so I was in charge of people, and I thought like, I could do something in that leadership development realm, provide guidance to operational leaders. I could, you know, it was a really cool role because I got to do a lot of different things in healthcare. Healthcare, there's somewhat of a gap there because a lot of like clinicians get put into leadership roles, and they don't train on leadership. It's just like, hey, you're really good at your job. We think you'd be a good leader, and so there's always this flailing in that first year. And so I was there to help those operational leaders kind of make that transition from my experience in the military. Thankfully, like the Navy's smart, you know, they've been around for over 200 years. They put me through leadership development like from day one. And so, and I remember I was like, the Navy is so brilliant with their assignments because, you know, my senior year I want to go down a destroyer in the operations department out of San Diego. Well, they sent me to a steamship and engineering out of Japan, right? So like they didn't care what you wanted to do. And so I'm like, I'm not an engineer, I'm a business major. And the captain said, hey, we didn't train you to be an engineer, we trained you to be a leader. And so leadership is this, you know, it permeates, it's a very universal quality in any industry. You got to learn the industry a little bit, but that was different for healthcare folks because they learn a profession. Same with doctors. For years and years, they're really good at it. And then when they go to leadership, it's a muscle they haven't flexed before. And so I'm thankful that I was able to work with some really solid practitioners that, you know, they're calling you out constantly and you're just there for them. And so I enjoyed that. And even now, like even being a director of HR, it's like, you know, you've seen a lot and you can apply it, especially for a startup. We're in the startup stage still, and like I've seen a lot in that top level, like I can bring it down, you know, and then kind of grow with the company on those things. So yeah, appreciate the question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Questions? Yes.
He's coming.
There we go.
What's the biggest legal issue you had with starting your company?
Oh, good question. So with WorkShift, it was really making sure, like people that sign up, the staff side, or 1099s or contracted staff, we had to make sure that like when you sign up that you're reading, there's an agreement, and it was, you know, it was clear that you're contracted staff. And then so we worked with an attorney to make sure that that was all in place. Yeah, and then working with the businesses on the other end, say these are non-employees, these are contracted staff. So, and even now, like you gotta just be real careful. Sometimes you get into that gray zone where they're working like regularly, you're like, hold on, you gotta make sure you're not creating this like employee issue. And so we're always attuned to that, but like we're really like clear and upfront. And you know, employment laws change pretty regularly, to, you know, even by administration. So those are things we're always kind of keeping an eye on too. So yeah.
How did you find the funds to start up your company?
Yeah, I would say friends and family. You know, like it's a little bit of that. We did get a couple of grants, so that's helpful. 2 grants are, you know, it's money you don't have to pay back. And you know, you don't have to give equity. And I think those are the things when you're a startup, like equity is important, you know, the shares in the company, the ownership. So you gotta be real careful about the people that are giving you money, like you're not committing to like, hey, here's, you know, you're 20% owner, but you're just being protective of that. And the other thing was just like, how do we create this so that we get started, but then we can create a revenue model where it pays for itself, if you will. So, yeah. But yeah, grants, friends and family. We're not ready for venture or you know any seed fund yet, but I think that's the thing too. Like, can you show and demonstrate that your product works? You're making money off of it, and then the seed money would be like, or the VC money would be like, how do I go from, you know, Milwaukee to like around the country? You know, so that money will help like spread that thing, add more people, enhance the technology. So think of it that way too, like you're trying to just proof of concept kind of thing, so.
Let's go back here. How do you balance your work life with your personal life?
Great question. I don't.
So it's a fun one.
I would say, yeah, you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta like get rest. Like I know what my limits are, and if I just need to, I've got a really good support system too. Like if I just like, hey, I'm not going out, or I'm not like, I'm staying in, whatever it is, I'm working on this or that. Very supportive of that. I would say just, exercise is another big key of that. So like, how do you stay active by, cycling, running, whatever it is, like to make sure that you've got enough energy for that next thing. Really, I mean, at the end, like know your limits. Like I know at the end of the night, I'm done. I can't do more than that. But in the morning, in the weekends, in the morning, I'm super productive, right? First thing in the morning. And so I think just know your body, know what your limits are, and practice that. So.
I think that's a good answer. I'm the same way. Yeah, you gotta know when to stop and when to go. Pick the times you're gonna be most productive and use them. And then if you're not, That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm the same way at night. I'm zonked.
Yeah,
I'm zonked right now.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still here.
You're like, and the emails.
Yeah, just like, they'll still be there tomorrow.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
all good.
So, anyone else?
Any other questions?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I'm kind of wondering about like how your team works and like how the communication, like is there like a chain of communication that they have to follow, or do you like delegate things and then they report back to you?
So, thankfully it's a small enough team, like we're all like collaborative, and so we'll have weekly meetings, kind of standing meetings. If something, pretty urgent comes up, we have a Slack channel, we just like stay communicating on that, or email. And then, but yeah, I think it's small enough where the team can still connect with each other. So we haven't gotten to that point yet, but at some point where we get like, let's say, a recruiter or a marketing person, it's gonna be like, okay, who is running their assignments regularly? So, and we'll have to determine that. But, and it's really important too, like, you have lines of delineation. Because then all of a sudden, if they get conflicting orders or direction, it just causes a lot of chaos. So just know, be clear about that. I'm in charge of this, you're in charge of this, and if I need help, I'll call you in. So yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, right here. Your right shoulder.
I noticed that you guys mentioned that having the ability to always see opportunities is a blessing and a curse, and I was kind of curious on why you guys thought that and how you guys balance that, or how you balance that.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I think what it comes down to is, personally, I'm never off. I think it's one of those ones where I'm constantly like, maybe there's something I can do with that, and for my world, it's speaking, it's putting together a message, it's trying to be like motivating, and like, so I'm constantly just like, really all the time. I'm never, so my brain's always, I don't sleep that well, my brain's always on, so I love what I do, but the passion behind it makes me like do it a lot. And so that's kind of my world, and when I come up with something, it's great, but sometimes I'm just like, you just gotta go, it's 4 in the morning, it's time to go back to bed, like that will still be here tomorrow. So that's where it becomes a curse for sure, but it's one, it's like a, let's say it's like a mental torture I'm okay with. Like it's one that I've accepted, that I'm like, this is the world I'm in, and I think that's like the blessing is when you can find something when you're okay with that. Like that's something I can take on and good. If you're not, then maybe it's not the thing you should be doing. So that's where I come from. But maybe
Yeah, I would say, same thing. Like I got like my brain's working always. I
We're
carry
just so smart. I would say we're just really smart.
Yeah. That's right. Maybe you have the same, but like I have a notebook that I keep too, and I was just like, if I'm not ready to dig into something, I'll just make some notes. I might not come back to it. I'll put it on my phone. Like I like writing it though, because it helps me make the connection a little stronger. Then I'll make sure I capture that semblance of an idea. Yeah, know that, you know, if you can't give it all the, like, the effort because you're tired or it's middle of the night, just, you know, just save it for when you have that energy, that creativity, the inspiration, but like, you know, jot it down, like, I don't wanna lose that thought, but I'll go to it in the morning, like, and knowing, like, that's my best time to do those things.
Excellent. Well, I think that is a podcast wrap.
I think so.
Thank you all for coming. We're going to be here for a little bit. There's pizza, there's food. Thank you to the 707 Hub for hosting us as always. We will be back here. It is September right now, right? October and November. So you'll find us with two more guests. But can we give a round of applause to Manny?
Hey, thanks so much.